if you would have told me 3 years ago, me working at my 14-hour-a-day job, if that I had 2 million followers right now, I would have looked you in the eyes and be like, "Oh my, like, are you kidding me?"
You
Like,
would have
that's
canceled everything and celebrated.
literally.
Let's have a parade.
And it
Freaking finally, I feel like I've been zipping my mouth because I've been wanting the podcast to start before we could catch up.
I'm so excited. Oh my God. And I'm like an open book. So I'm just like, anything you say, I'm like, oh yeah, let's just talk about that. So
That is a dream thing for someone to say when you're sitting down for a podcast, because that's a good conversation.
oh my gosh. Isaac and I, my husband, we kind of did a podcast, like a few episodes. It was also just like in our living room during quarantine. But it's hard to interview certain people because they're like, oh, they answer the question and they don't keep going. You're like, give me more.
Right. Or it's just surface level conversation. No one wants that. And I'm always trying to go deeper because I feel like everything can be so surface level. Social media,
Mhm.
interactions with people, or the assumption you make about someone when you see their life. And it's like, I think everyone has something. And that's a low key. I'm like, that's why I have my show. Everyone come on and tell me you're something.
Right. Well, and also like, I feel like if they give like the surface level answer, it's like you could have just like texted me that answer.
Right.
Like I want to hear more. I want to hear emotion. I want to hear like deep level, you know?
1,000%. So, I mean, just starting open, how is your spirit today?
My spirit is good today. I feel like today is like the first day I feel good. We just made the move from Cleveland to California, and that was a lot. Also being in Cleveland was a lot. And today I woke up, I like had my little routine and I was like, wow, like I'm finally home.
Which home probably is never an easy thing for you because you guys are, I mean, you never know when you're going to get ripped out of your place.
Yes. Yeah. Home, I've quickly realized, is literally like Isaac. It's just a person because if you like rely on friends or like location, we can move at any time. So I've found that when I'm homesick, it's usually because I'm away from my husband.
Right. Now you are like killing it. I mean, you
Thank
like every single thing you do is fire. And I mean, it's unreal. So, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you. I don't know how to take a compliment, so I thank you.
Cringing in the chair.
Like,
No, but like it's insane. And then I was digging, and for anyone looking at Allison Kuch, like, oh, overnight sensation, cute. No, you've been posting YouTube videos for 6 years.
yeah, the cringy like 6 years ago videos.
No, but not cringy, but like, I mean, I know YouTube is a hard platform. I mean, and now making TikToks, you're like, oh my God, this is so much easier. I mean, hustling, grinding, vlog after vlog after vlog for 6 years. And then is it like this years, probably the past 6-10 months, you've been feeling the reward of that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I've also realized that you're not going to be great at everything in social media. Like even though I have all these followers, I don't think that like YouTube is like, oh, I'm so great at YouTube. I think that the short form content, I love it. I love being able to reply to a comment or being able to show life in like a short amount of time. And sitting down to edit a YouTube video can take like 6 hours. So being able to go on TikTok and record something and upload it, I love it. And it allows me to be more organic because then I'm not listening to the same clip like 20 times.
Right.
Which then by the time you listen to it at the end, you're like, oh, I don't want to share that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I love how TikTok has made it so everything doesn't have to be professional and perfect and polished.
Exactly.
It can be like the ugly, real, raw selfie video.
And you see all these companies trying to like put commercials on TikTok. And I'm like, unless it's raw and real, people aren't going to like it.
Yeah.
Like that's a reason so many people like TikTok, or at least the reason I do, is because people are a lot more vulnerable. They're a lot more real. You see like people's actual lives. I'm sure some people still show like the
Right.
wake up with me YouTube version, but yeah, I love TikTok for that reason.
And was this always in your game plan? I mean, a lot of people would make the assumption, I know you poke fun at this online, that like, oh, you marry someone in the NFL, like you don't have to do anything.
Absolutely not. I feel like I've always wanted to, like, I've always loved social media, but I've always loved just being creative. And that's like goes back to like my major in college is interior design and like starting Airbnbs. I love being creative in so many different sectors that I loved social media. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to have it be my job. Now, I didn't think I was ever going to be in this position. I thought maybe like be an editor or help in some different type of way, but I'm so unbelievably happy. I also can't like sometimes it doesn't feel real. I'm like, what's going on?
What has that been like? Because, you know, when you're married to someone in the NFL, usually like they're the star. And I mean, you have people literally like giving Isaac jerseys with your name on them.
It's honestly, it's so surreal, and so many people think that, like, Isaac is so, like, hateful about it. It's like
I don't get that vibe at all. Who thinks that?
Oh my god, so many people have been like, "Oh, is he jealous?" Like, "Oh, I would never want my wife to have that platform or, like, show, like, I would never wanna be Mr. Kuch." I'm like, "Oh, that's
I
interesting."
hate that sports culture wants sports wives to just, like, kinda shut up and do nothing.
Oh, they do. Yeah. I feel like it's not even, like, the ESPN or, like, the NFL, the people behind like, I feel like it's honestly just a lot of honestly, this sucks, but, like, honestly, a lot of men. A lot of
Yeah.
men have a problem with me having a platform and talking about my life. They're like, "Yeah, oh my god, like, you're gonna leave once he's out of the NFL," or, "Oh my god, like, if he wasn't in the NFL, you wouldn't be with him," and it's just like, can I just, like, share my life? Because the NFL affects my life just as much as it affects my husband's.
Yeah, and there's so many assumptions. I mean, even, like, every pro athlete, they think that they cheat on you. They think that you can't have a real relationship. I mean, even when Max was playing college football, I once told someone, "Oh, we've been dating for 3 years," and I'm like, "Oh, he plays football." She's like, "Oh, he plays football? He's cheating on you." The audacity just said that to me.
You're like, "Oh, really? That's, like, news to me." Yeah, it's such a, like, horrible stigma. I do feel like a lot of, like, bigger name people, like, when you think of, like, people cheating on their wives, sometimes you think of, like, movie stars or entertainers or, like, athletes, all of that, and it's just because they're in the light, so if you see, like, 1 or 2, you're like, "Oh, all of them are."
Right.
It's so easy to make that, like, assumption about everybody, but not everybody is like that.
So did you always know that he would make it to the NFL and this would be your lifestyle?
Absolutely not.
Out of college, like, what did you guys think? What was your game plan?
So, I mean, when I first started dating him, we were 19. So we were sophomores in college. And I mean, yeah, he played football, but the amount of guys that actually make it to the NFL and like actually make it through a first year, it's so rare. What was it? It
It's
was like
less than 1%.
yes, it's insane. So, no, I didn't think he was gonna go to the NFL, but I think, like, his senior year when he started talking to agencies and, like, sports agencies, all that, then I was like, "Oh, like, this is actually happening," and then they were like, "Oh, he's gonna get drafted," and I was like, "Oh, that's okay. This is okay. What's going on?" And it kinda felt, like, surreal up until he did get drafted, and then he went to the Chargers.
And this is a lifestyle that is not as, like, cookie cutter dream as people think it is. It's so interesting too, we talked about this before we got on mic, but Max, my husband, knows Isaac through the football world, and, I mean, there was a point in my life and Max's where, like, we thought the life you're living is the life we maybe would have lived, and it didn't work out that way for him. So it's like, what do you say when people look at your life and think that's perfect? That's what like the less than 1% get, and you should be so happy all the time.
I think it's hard because sometimes I even struggle with that, like, "Oh, I should be happy all the time, like, why am I sad? Like, my husband has a great job, I have a great job, we both love what we do, I should never be sad." But at the end of the day, it's like everybody's like, if you're in your own situation, you can't tell somebody else, like, "Oh, your situation isn't that bad because I'm in something worse." It's like comparison is like the devil, like, you can't compare your life that way, and I feel like I did for a while, but now I'm like, "Okay, why don't I use my platform to show people, like, the actual reality?" And honestly, I've loved doing it because I feel like I'm able to be more vulnerable and actually show that, like, this NFL life isn't perfect and there's, like, a lot of ups and downs, and maybe that might be some reasoning behind why I might be feeling this way.
And what about your lifestyle or you do you feel is most often misunderstood?
I feel like the biggest thing is definitely money. It's definitely, like, me being with my husband for money, I think that's misunderstood. I also think it's misunderstood that the NFL doesn't affect my life, which if you follow me on social media, you know that is absolutely not true. The NFL affects a lot of different parts of our life. Like, even right now, it's off season, I feel like it still affects our life.
Right, all the time.
I'm grateful for it, and I sometimes I feel self-conscious talking about it, but, I mean, this is my reality, like, nobody can tell me different.
Right, and I think didn't you mention you had, like, a breakdown, like, last week because of just, like, all the chaos?
Oh, yeah. What was it? Saturday? Yeah, I literally so we just moved back into our house here in California, which we haven't lived in since July because we were in Cleveland and then Vegas. And I had a breakdown because I was like, I don't feel like this is our home, but like we just bought this home and you want to like jump into off season because it's a short period of time, so you want to enjoy it. And then I was like, okay, all of my shit is packed into all these bags. Like literally all of my clothes are just in vacuum sealed bags. Like our washer's broken. I don't feel at home here. And it's like you have to jump from like routine in Cleveland to routine in California. And sometimes it just is a lot. Like people talk about moving, like, oh my God, I hate moving. I move a lot. So
Yeah.
it's stressful.
And when you go to a new town, it's the element of like, do we don't have a routine here. We don't have our I don't know my coffee shop here, my people. Like, are you feeling lonely? How do you deal with that?
Oh my gosh. I've tried to perfect it. The first 4 years my husband was in the league, he played for the Chargers all 4 years, and we never left because who doesn't wanna live in Southern California? Like, it's incredible. So we stayed here all 4 years, we made friends outside of the NFL. In the NFL, it truly felt like home, and then when he went to the Colts, it was like, "Okay, you're plopped in this new city." My husband is trying to make new friends. I don't know my like, right, left, like, where's the nearest Target? Like, where am I getting coffee? Like, going and working out. And I feel like I kinda shut down when we went to the Colts because I was like, I don't know, I have a lot of social anxiety and also, like, putting myself out there can be tough. I'm usually not the friend to, like, reach out. Once we're friends, I'll reach out, but I'm not the person to initiate. So that was really hard. And yeah, it's just hard to jump into a routine when you don't know anybody. And it's like, it's just as easy as, oh, like, go to a workout class. It's like, I'm not making friends at a workout class.
With the social anxiety, what is it that you think hinders you from feeling as comfortable or being as outgoing as like you could be?
I think it's honestly just, like, perception of myself, like, not feeling like I'm, like, good enough or cool enough or somebody actually wants to talk to me, and then, like, leaving a conversation and thinking, "Oh, I like, what did I say? Like, do they hate me?"
Right? You'd rather like avoid all that altogether.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so interesting because I never experienced anything like that until college. Because in high school, I had some great friends and I like didn't have to think too much about it. And then in college, even in just like team environments, when you hear that girls are getting together and doing something, and I don't know, maybe you see like I don't know, making an assumption. You're like the wives like are going to a dinner. These girls always sit next to each other. They're in this booth together, and it's like that clickiness all over again.
Yeah, there's definitely cliques, like, team to team, but if you think of just, like, a group of, let's say, 100 women, like, different cliques are gonna be made no matter what because different personalities mesh together, and I think, like, this year, I definitely realized that, like, oh, like, I wasn't invited to that dinner, but I'm like, "Wait, like, do I actually mesh with those girls? Like, why would I be affected if I'm not actually friends with them? Like, that shouldn't affect me."
Right.
So, yeah, I feel like I think that's something I've realized, but also it's hard to not compare yourself to, like, people in different tax brackets. Like, certain women are gonna drive around, like, G-Wagons and, like, all these beefed up vehicles and have these, like, 5,000 square foot homes, and me and my husband are, like, living in this tiny little apartment and driving across the country instead of taking a private jet. There's definitely comparison there.
Right, right. And do you have a lot of do you have good friends who, like, you go back with that, like, you rely on, and do you think that plays a role in not feeling the need to be a social? Because I sometimes will bank on, like, "Oh, I have my girls, so I don't need to put myself out there," and then I'm like, "Wait, my girls don't even live here, and I have done nothing."
Absolutely. I feel like there's, like, I have friends in wherever we live, or I don't know, next year, maybe I won't, I don't know. But, like, in Cleveland, like, I had a group of friends that I could text, like, "Hey, do you wanna grab drinks? Do you wanna grab dinner?" All of that. But then I also have that core group of friends that I can FaceTime and I won't feel lonely anymore. And it's crazy because a lot of those girls are actually other women in the NFL, but they're just on different teams. It's hard to talk about the things that you're going through when somebody doesn't know what you're going through. So having other women in the NFL be some of my best friends, it's like, "Oh, hey, like, Isaac got cut today," and I can call up my friend who her husband has got cut before, and it's like they can, like, relate a lot more with you than somebody who doesn't know that.
Totally. I think that makes so much sense, like, for anyone in any pocket of life is, like, having people who get it. You know, when I was a student athlete, my best friend just she doesn't live that life, so, like, how can she know?
Mhm.
I know that you guys have this really cute relationship online. What's your relationship now with social media and knowing when you're picking up your phone to document something or you're living in the moment? I struggle with that all the time because similar to you, my content is a lot of lifestyle. It's a lot of this is on my brain. And then I'm like, okay, when do I put the phone away? When is this a moment that I remember in my mind? Like, when is this core memory status and when is this I need a picture?
Yeah, I think my husband and I were just talking about this the other day because I feel like social media we've been on social media for, like, the past 2 years, but I feel like this off season is a little bit different. So we actually had a sit down talk and we were like, "Okay, Monday through Friday, we're working. If we wanna go on a date night, we gotta check with the other person that's okay to record and, like, whatever, and, like, go on your phone during dinner." And, like,
Set boundaries.
exactly. And, like, even Saturday or Sunday, it's like, "Okay, like, let's make sure that we're doing things off camera as much as we're doing them on it, if not more," you know?
Right. Gosh, it's so tough. And like, it's precious. You want to protect it.
I feel like I don't really talk about my relationship a ton. Like, we have a very strong relationship. We've been together 8 years, and I'm not scared to, like, share any part of that, but I've learned that I like privacy of our relationship to a certain extent, as well as like other parts of my life that are private, like family and like our children one day. Like there's a level of like things I'm willing to share. It's funny because I'm like, I'm an open book. You can literally ask me anything. But if you ask me about like X, Y, or Z, I don't know if I want to talk about it.
Yeah, and I'm also in the same boat if you can ask me anything, and I might say, "Oh, I appreciate the question, but I don't want to talk about it."
Yeah.
Like, I can handle my own in saying that response
Mhm.
and not feeling like you have to answer every question. Now, I know the sports world is harder on the mental health conversation. Both Max and I have been in therapy. We've both struggled with anxiety. I've struggled with depression. Have you been through anything similar?
I have not been to therapy. I definitely want to go to therapy. And Isaac and I were even talking about going to couples therapy, not to like solve anything, but honestly, just like going through these transitions in life can be very stressful. And when things are happening in our life, it also can put stress on our relationship. So, like, a prime example is like us living in Cleveland. Like, Isaac would go to work every morning and come home, and then he'd be like, "Oh, I don't feel like going out. Like, I was at work all day. Like, let's just make dinner here." And it's like having to have those conversations of, "Hey, I've been alone in the house all day. I wanna go and have human interaction," like, those kind of things,
Yeah.
and I feel like even more so, like, me and my husband, like, obviously live together, we work together, we have so many different businesses together, and one day we wanna start a family, so I'm like, preparing your relationship for all these changes and even, like, fixing it now before there's actually a problem, I feel like is such a healthy thing, and it should never be like, "Oh, we're going to couples therapy," like, so scary. It should be healthy, it should be something that's, like, common.
Yeah, and it's preventative and also
Mhm.
just, like, getting each other on the same page. Max and I did like, a really cool book. It was called 8 Dates. We just now you guys are married, you've probably gotten through all these obstacles, but it was, like, on trust, and then it was on what kind of life do you wanna live together and what's important to you. Max will joke, he's like, "I would be a great college football coach," and I'm like, "Yeah, in another life, because like, I can't do the life that you live now, if he would have made it into the league, that's one thing, but if he's
Mhm.
gonna choose to coach and, like, start from the bottom of, like, volunteer coaching general, like, I couldn't do that.
It's just, like, a lot of stress. It's funny that you say that because Isaac and I will, like, pull up, like, a Pinterest thing of, like, "Oh, like, 30 questions you should ask your, like, fiancé before moving in together." And it's funny because we still do that today because I'm like, we still don't know each other, like, down to a T. Like, we're not in the other person's head. And I feel like it's fun because in a relationship, you're constantly changing yourself. I mean, like, you're constantly growing as a person. So I think it's always good to, like, have a check-in point. And I think it's fun when we do that at dinner often, and it's a lot of fun.
You guys are together 24/7 because when he comes home, that's your person. But as you mentioned, throughout the day, like there's a lot of time to be by yourself. So what's your relationship with yourself like? Like, do you feel like you've done the inner work? Do you have things that you avoid or like I can't open this yet? Or have you opened everything?
I feel like I'm still, like, learning. I feel like I do well being alone, but over long periods of time, like, during the like, towards the end of the football season, I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready to, like, have a friend," or, like, "I need to start doing something," and I think that's why this morning was so great for me because I was like, "Okay, I need to get into a routine. I need to leave the house. I need to, like, go and do stuff and just, like, push myself outside my comfort zone because if I don't, then I'm gonna get lonely and depressed, and it's not gonna be fun for anybody."
Right. And now that you're so mega on social media, you might feel this pressure, this responsibility to like always be posting. And then that comes up with more thoughts and judgment in your head. What's been like the hardest thing about the TikTok fame?
Ooh, I feel like I'm kinda going through it right now. I feel like when we left Cleveland, I was very open about being kinda depressed there, and it's nothing on the city of Cleveland. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, Cleveland's so horrible, you had to leave," and I'm like, "It's not the city, it's myself." It's, like, me exploring also, like, the fact that, like, my husband lost his job multiple times there, like, it was tough, and I feel like once we left there, I was like, "Okay, we're going to California," and then I get to California, and I'm like, "Okay," like, I'm still feeling, like, depressed and anxious, and, like, I haven't posted a lot the past week, and it makes me feel anxious because 'cause I'm like, "Oh my god, like, fuck, like, I'm grateful for this platform, I'm grateful for all my followers, but it's like, sometimes you're in your own head and you're like, "Do people even like me?"
Dude, I feel that way like right now this week. I'm like, no one wants to hear from me. Like, what the like why do people even care? Like I judge everything that I do and then I don't post. And then I'm like, I'm so behind. And now if I post and think it's gonna be this big deal, it has to be great,
Mhm.
you know?
And I even more so, like, I didn't really share us driving to California from Cleveland, like, we literally also, like, I'll just break this down. The day after Christmas, Isaac got a call to go to the Raiders. He left 2 hours after he got the call. And then I had to go to Miami for a work trip. That was 2 days later. So I flew to Miami. I was there for 24 hours, flew to Vegas, stayed there for like 6 days. And then we flew to Cleveland. And the day of my birthday, I was packing up our entire house. We didn't have time to celebrate. And I'm like big on birthdays. I'm like, I love a good
Yeah.
birthday, you know? I just feel like it's like a day dedicated towards you. Anyways, so then the day after my birthday, we got in the car, we drove here. And once we were here, I was like, okay, great. I'm glad I didn't share any of that. So now when I talk about my struggles the past 2 weeks, everyone's like, what do you mean? You're in California.
Right. And then isn't it weird that you're having human emotions and you're like, how do I make this content?
Yes.
How do I make this viral?
But I also think that I love being an open book because I literally I'm gonna make a video today where I'm like, okay, I've been depressed. Like, let's talk about it. I'm also in California and like kind of bring people back up to speed. And sometimes even that makes me feel better because I'm like, okay, now these people know like my actual feelings and I feel like I can at least like move on from that. Yeah, it's looking at views is kind of crazy to me because I'm like, oh my God, this only got like 200,000 views. I'm like, what the like, what am I thinking? That's disgusting.
You know what? It's so funny. Like, you're a page I look at and I'm like, everything she posts goes viral. Like, everything she does is genius. Everything she does kills it. Like,
Do not think that because sometimes, like, there are so many videos that I won't post, and then my husband will be like, "Post that," and he'll take my phone, post it, and it gets like a million views. And I'm like, I don't want to say that like it's so easy to go viral, but it's like sometimes you're just in your own head.
yes. And like, there's perfectionism.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you feel like that gets in the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like if a video isn't perfect, I can't post it. And I feel like once you get to like a certain level, like all my videos have hit a million. So I'm like, oh, if this video doesn't like, I should just quit. Like,
Right.
that's so toxic.
So, how do you like the thing about this lifestyle too is like, there's no end, there's no max follower count that you can then put your phone down and be done. So, it's like, how are you rationalizing that?
Yeah, you're asking a great question.
I don't know the
Like,
answer. I'm like, help me.
I
But
feel
we
like
know happiness isn't in it, right? But then we still want it.
exactly. It's crazy because I love social media, and I feel like if you would have told me 3 years ago, me working at my 14-hour-a-day job, if that I had 2 million followers right now, I would have looked you in the eyes and be like, "Oh my like, are you kidding me?"
You
Like,
would have
that's
canceled everything and celebrated.
literally.
Let's have a parade.
And it's crazy because you're like, "Okay, at what level, like, do I measure this as successful?" And I'm like, "Well, I think I am successful." Like, I've definitely feel like I've achieved, like, the dream of, like, being on social media and, like, following my passion. What's next? Great question. I feel like that's
Right.
a problem that everybody has.
Yeah.
Like, even in, like, 9 to 5s, like, you're like, "Okay, like, am I actually happy doing this every single day for the rest of my life?" It's definitely difficult.
And like, I think whether it's followers or not, everyone needs money to survive. And that's something that doesn't have a max number. You can just keep earning, keep making, keep trying to do your next thing to make money. And so it's like, it's exhausting for sure. So you're currently in this funk. I relate to that on like an identity level. What are you doing to try to get out of it?
So the other day, I was doing an ad for a company, and it's hard to, like, work with like, it's like, this is a dream company to work with, and when they come back with edits, you're like, "Oh my god, I'm such a horrible creator, like, I feel so bad that they picked me, like, oh my god, I'm super self-conscious." I literally called my manager, and I was sobbing, and I was like, I'm so sorry, like, I shouldn't have let you down." She's like, "Girlie, it's like."
They just send edits and you redo it. That's standard.
Yeah. And so I literally was having a breakdown. I also feel like just, like, being on social media, sometimes you're, like, your own worst critic. And then I, like, literally was sobbing in bed. My husband walks in the bedroom. He's like, "What did I miss? Like, what's going on?" And I feel like this is why he's my best friend and, like, why he's, like, the person for me. He was like, "Okay, get up." He was like, "Put on some clothes."
Oh, I saw this video.
He was like, "Put on some clothes, like, we're leaving." Like, we literally went to, like, look at the water because we live in California, you can do that. And he was like, "Okay, let's have a margarita." He was like, "I don't care if we're doing dry January, you're having a margarita." And we sat there, and he was like, "Let's just talk about whatever you wanna talk about." And I was like, "Okay, I don't wanna talk about social media." And he was like, "Okay, like, we wanna talk about that boat? How great would it be to own a boat?" And I feel like he, like, does such a good job of, like, pulling me out of things, and I don't wanna rely on him for, like, whenever I'm anxious to just rely on him, but he definitely puts it in perspective, like, that's like, you can do that later. Like,
Right.
let's be happy, let's be in the moment, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, I just need to post a video tonight." And he's like, "Or don't, like, or just don't."
Right.
And it's just crazy to think, like, you don't have to.
It becomes this like addiction. And that's why I think we see a lot of big creators like eventually like take these massive breaks. And I admire that for them. So I have struggled with body image issues and self-esteem. And oftentimes with social media, it's like you're posting your face, you're posting your body. And like I'm sure you have people saying, I love your hair, I love your makeup. How do you do this? Like, has that affected your relationship with your self-image? Have you always been confident? Have you struggled with that at all?
Oh my god, I've never been confident. I really haven't. And I don't think I'll ever be at the point where I'm like, "Oh my god," like, I would not change one thing about myself. Like, I don't know if I'll ever be there. I hope one day I am. I think that just growing up, I dealt with acne and I like cystic acne to the point where like my sister went to Accutane twice. And I feel like I struggled there. And then like also like when I was in middle school, like I was super, I was literally the tallest person up until like high school. And like
Mhm.
I dealt with self-consciousness there where people are like, "Oh, you're a giraffe." I'm like, "Oh, great." And then, you get to college and you're like, "Oh, I could be prettier. I could look better." And then you get to the NFL and you're like, "Oh my God, like, oh, NFL's top hottest wags." And you're like, "Oh, like top 100 didn't even make it in there."
They do those lists?
Oh, people do it all the time. And I'm like, is that all I'm good for is my looks? And so I definitely deal with like self-consciousness and being on camera. It's like you look at your face 24/7, you're like, "Oh, like that could change or that could change." But I don't know. I feel like everybody also deals with self-consciousness and like looking at some like a weird part of your body. You're like, why is somebody self-conscious about like their ears? Like I would never look
Right.
at their ears.
I saw your video.
About my neck?
Yes. Which I actually have to make you feel comfortable. I have a friend who has the same insecurity. So I sent it to her and I feel like she felt so comforted because we all pick out these little things.
And I think it's funny because, like, if I'm self-conscious, I wanna talk about that in social media because 'cause I'm like, somebody might be dealing with that too, and
Yeah.
it can be so much less, like, of a scary world if you know somebody else is going through the same shit.
Right. 1,000%. I
Mhm.
was actually looking in the mirror the other day and I was like, are my ears at slightly different levels? Victoria,
Oh my god,
stop it. Like, why do we do that? You
it's
know?
also, like, the reverse filter on TikTok when you could, like, do it so
Oh.
it's, like, mirrored. I had to do that for a brand the other day, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so much uglier when people look at me, like, I like the mirrored version."
That's hilarious. Yeah, I'm like too scared to put that filter on me. So, do you think about the future and like where you want to go? Are you the kind of person who is go with the flow, try to live my life in the present? Or are you like January 1, you've been cranking out a list of all the things you want to accomplish this year?
I think the NFL has taught me to be a live in the moment type of person, and I'm grateful for that because like, I feel like a few years ago, I would like, "Okay, here are my goals. Here's this, here's that. I have to accomplish this, and this." And I feel like I didn't really live in the moment, and that's when people are like, "Oh, like, why are you buying, like, a bunch of like, why are you buying a Raiders shirt? Like, your husband could not be with them." And I'm like, "Well, in this moment right now, he is. So I don't really care about the future." And I feel like living in the present, I've been so much happier doing that because I don't have to, like I'm not, like, always looking towards the next thing. It's like, the thing that's making me happy is right now, and I need to live in that.
I'm trying to do more of that.
Is
It's hard. That's like one of my goals for this year is like to recognize that I have the ability to be happy right now, not
Mhm.
with the next thing or when I get somewhere else. It is just so hard, and I feel like I've been stuck a lot in the comparison game, like, and I used to pride myself on being like, I want everyone to succeed, and I do, but for some reason, I'm in this mindset where when I see someone's success, I feel so discouraged, like, do you compare yourself to other people online?
Absolutely, and it's stupid because I'm like, I'm never gonna be that person, like, what is the point of me comparing myself to that person? Like, for example, Alex Earl going super viral right now for her, like, her Get Ready With Me's, and I made a Get Ready With Me, and I was like, "This isn't me, like, why am I jealous of this?" And I think it's, like, going back to, like, is her going to Dubai with Tarte, would that make me happy? I'm like, "That would be fucking incredible," but I'm like, I don't know that I would wanna go on a makeup trip, like, that's just not me. And so
Yeah.
I think it's, like, you have to come back to yourself and you're like, "What is important?" And I feel like even, like, this is something great to do is, like, write out, like, what is important to you, and it's like, if makeup isn't important to you, then you shouldn't be jealous of it. I mean, you can be.
Right.
I'm sure I definitely will be in the future, but
No, but I feel the same way about seeing that content because she seems so freaking cool. I love her videos, and I think she works her ass off. Underrated thing about
absolutely.
Alex Earl, the amount of videos she's posting, editing, like, girl's freaking grinding, and I freaking respect it. As a creator, I see the success, and I'm like, how what did I not do to make that be me? What did I not do right to be in that position? Like, why aren't my video like, and so it's a weird double-edged sword.
Mhm.
It's nice to know I'm not alone in that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think also, like, why do I like being on social media? I was thinking about this in the car on the way here, and I was like, "Why do I love being on social media?" And I was like, I don't think I'm an influencer, like, I'm not trying to influence anybody to buy a product, like, that's not my goal. I was like, I'm not really like, I like creating content, but I wouldn't say that's me, and I was like, I feel like I'm an entertainer, like, if somebody can watch my video and, like, escape from their, like, reality, if they wanna escape from something, like, if they watch my video and laugh, like, that makes me happy, like, I feel like that's me being successful, it's not like, "Oh, wow," like, so many people are, like, reposting this video, like, I'm so happy about that, but, like, somebody DMing me and being like, wow, like I was really in a funk today and like this message really spoke words to me. Like, thank you so much for sharing. Like that makes me feel like that's what fuels me. I'm like, okay, I need to start like keep doing that then.
Right. I think that's such a great perspective and it's grounding
Mm-hmm.
because then you're not getting lost in like what other things could be. And I try to remind myself too, like, I'm going to say this. I don't know if it's like I'm trying to convince myself, but if I had the opportunity to have Alex Earl's fame, I don't know if my best life is lived with that much fame. I always joke that I want to be enough that I don't want to be able to not go to the local grocery store. I don't want to have death threats. I don't, and there's a level that you pass. And so I'm kind of like, how can I max where I'm at and not hit that? Because I don't know if that is the life that I want, even though a vain part of me who's been told more seeks it.
It's funny. Isaac and I were literally just talking about this because we have been in talks with like a few like different companies and like people are like, oh, you want to do a TV show? And Isaac and I were like, we're not doing reality TV. Like, absolutely not. Like, that's the level where it's like, it starts affecting your kids. And I'm like, okay, I don't want, like, I'm choosing this for myself. I'm not choosing this for my kids. Like, that, and that goes back to like, Isaac and I don't plan on showing our kids on social media. And I'm sure though, yeah.
I love that you're going to do that because you could milk the shit out of that if you wanted to.
Oh my God.
Literally and figuratively.
So many people already are like, oh my God, I can't wait to see your baby and what it looks like. I'm like, that's weird. Like, that's fucking weird. Like, yeah, like I do know, like Isaac and I are great looking people. We're going to make a great looking baby. But I'm like, dealing with all of like the comparison growing up, I would hate for my child to have to be put through that just because I'm the mom.
I thought that the other day when I saw North and like Chicago doing a video.
Wait, is it the makeup one or the edges?
Yeah, I loved it. It's so precious. But like when they're 25, are they going to be like, Mom, why did you let me post this video of me when I don't know, like how I'd feel if my young videos are out there. So you're thinking your plan is like just not to involve them.
Yeah, I know for I'm sure like maybe their face gets slipped up or like maybe I post a picture, but like I will never do an ad for my child. Now, if I want to do an ad for diapers and my child's not in the video, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm not going to exploit like my kid or like talk about like, oh, her first period on YouTube. Like that's disgusting. Like it's like you're like, why don't you go out and you work and you do the ad and not involve your child?
Yeah. I don't think it's a good idea to build a brand that is based around your children. Like you need to be able to be successful without that. I will talk about my experience, my motherhood journey, my pregnancy, my hormones, but I'm not going to be documenting my kid in the bathtub or like making my kid the reason that my videos are successful.
Exactly. And I definitely like me growing up, like I always saw my mom with like a camera or a camcorder. So like there's definitely, I still want to record their life. I'm just like, what is the point of sharing their life with social media? Like I don't know. I feel like that'll just create so many problems with like self-perception and going to school and people are like, oh, like I saw your video of you in the bath. Like that's weird.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's going to be so refreshing when you do that. Because I feel like you're going to be one of the first major creators who do choose to do that.
I follow Bobby Atloff, and she does not show her kids at all. She like pretends that her kid's name is Concrete. Or maybe it is. We don't know. But I'm like, I respect that so much because she can, like, that's her job. It shouldn't be her child's job to make money for the family. I'm sure some creators might, but I'm like, are you putting all that money away for your child? Like, if you're making a video of only your child, is that ad money going just to them?
Yeah.
Because they're doing the video, not you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's funny because I don't think I've ever said that out loud that we're not going to show our child on or like share a child with social media. But yeah.
We were talking about what is like next for you. You said you're living in the moment, kids maybe down the road. How do you feel about all of the, I think, like popularity and the people who might use you or now have bad intentions? Like, how are you navigating genuine relationships and people who come up to you now at these games or want to be your friend?
I feel like, honestly, I don't feel like I'm being used by anybody. It's funny. I was talking to my best friend the other day because she's on social media. Her boyfriend is in the NFL as well. And I was like, you know what? If you ever want to use me, you can. Like, if you ever like want me to like give you ideas or like if you ever want to, that sounds so like shallow of me to say like, oh, like, yeah, I can make it go viral. No, I can't do that. But
I don't take it that way. I think it is you as like, hey, I have such a passion for this. And if you're ever in a brain funk, like I'd love to look at your page and give you some inspiration.
See, that's what I was meaning to say, but it comes out like, oh, if you ever want to use me.
No, I received it that way though.
Okay, perfect. But I looked at her the other day and I was like, if you ever want to like use me, feel free to. because I think that I'm in a situation where I'm like, if I'm eating, I want my friends to eat. I want my family to eat. Like, I want everybody else, like, around me that I care about to, like, also be, like, living their dream lives as well.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I don't really think, like, the only thing I think is, like, weird is, like, I feel sometimes self-conscious about going to NFL teams that my husband is, like, newly signed with, like, with the Raiders. I was like, "Oh, everyone's gonna think that I think I'm hot shit," and that makes me super self-conscious because 'cause I'm like, I would never want someone to look at, like, my follower count and be like, "Oh, she's probably really stuck up."
Or she thinks she's too cool.
Yeah, like, I definitely like, I promise you, I don't think I'm cool. I actually think that I'm weird as shit.
Wait.
People are probably looking at my video like, I think, like, going to the Raiders, I was like, "Oh my god, all these people have probably seen these videos of me crying." Like, great. Like,
Oh my God.
yeah.
That's funny you say that because I feel the same way. I feel like I'm always saying like, I'm a loser. And to the point where I'm like, Victoria, actually you should stop shitting on yourself that much. It's like, I want to be so far from ego that I like go to a place of like actually like dissing myself.
Yeah, and also it goes back to, like, the earlier on YouTubers, they're like, they used to get bullied and, like, they would just be making videos in their bedroom. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, that's weird," until they're successful and people are like, "Oh my god, I love that."
Right.
I still have that vibe when I go to, like, at my husband's football game. I'm like, "Oh, I have to record," like, I wanna record this video, and I'm, like, trying to do it secretly so I'm, like, not embarrassed. I'm like,
Yeah.
if I literally hold the phone out, nobody behind me is gonna care unless they're like, "Oh, I don't wanna be in the video."
Also, everyone knows you ball out and that's your thing and that's your job now. So it's like, I always just remind myself, this is my job. And if you knew what this was going to do, you would do it too.
Right.
You would do it too for a check.
You would do it too. And yeah, I agree. I would never want another wife on a team to like they share drama with me and think that I was ever going to post it. Nobody else's business is ever going to go on my social media unless I'm like, "Oh, that I want to talk about that." Like, can I?
Yeah.
My tea is my tea and I'll talk about that, but I'm like, if you want to share something with me, like that's not going to.
I think that's really healthy. This goes back to how you said that your relationship, your family, Isaac, is privacy to you.
Yeah.
I think that boundary is super, like we can be raw, authentic, talk about our periods and when we cry, but it's someone else's that it's like they didn't choose this life.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not really like, I'm not into drama. I'm like, you can like try and like poke and prod and be like, "Oh, she's not following so and so." It's like you can try, but I'm never going to talk about drama. I'm like, I don't really care that much.
And
guys.
then in your real life, are you also, I don't care, are you confrontational? Do you hate confrontation?
Oh my God, I hate confrontation.
Really?
To the point where, oh my gosh, my old job in LA, I worked for a staging company and these real estate agents would bitch me out. So I was the stager and they would bitch me out. Like literally the day I quit, somebody was like, "You're a fucking horrible designer. What do you think you're doing? Like where'd you go to school?" And I was like, okay. I was like, I quit. Like I literally started crying and I hate confrontation. And I feel like after that job, I like hate answering the phone. I hate responding to text messages. Like I get super self-conscious and I also hate disappointing people. And yeah, I don't deal like my husband. Sometimes if a unknown caller is calling me, I'll have my husband answer it. Like,
wow, because you have that much anxiousness about.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm so the opposite. I'm like, I don't want to say I live for confrontation because I also don't like drama. I don't like to cause problems. But no, if someone hurts me or bothers me, like I'll say something.
Oh no, I'll just cry.
Oh my gosh. Or like I definitely have had moments where in the moment, if someone was yelling at me like that, I'd maybe be like speechless. And then the next day I'd be like, "What's your number? I'm going to give you a call back because I have some thoughts. I slept on it."
That's funny. I feel like the only time I get confrontational on purpose is if somebody is dissing one of like my friends or family. I'm like, I'm the only person that can do that to them. Like, don't you dare. So,
yeah.
And I definitely get confrontational with like family and friends and like Isaac, but it's never like I won't go out of my way to be confrontational. Also, if somebody's being rude to me on the street, I'm like, all right, like I'll pray for you. Like, have a good day. Like,
yeah. Yeah. That's all you can say. Well, thank you so much. This has been so fun. I feel like we went all over the place and it was so cool getting to know you. I feel like I know you from social media. So does everyone else. But you're just as authentic in real life and
I love
down to earth. So thank you, Allie, for coming on Real Pod.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun. And it's funny because I'm probably going to walk away and be like, she didn't actually mean that.
No, I do mean it. I know. If anything, I'm going to leave like, oh my God, did she regret doing this podcast with me? Did she think that I was weird? Was I acting weird? Isn't it crazy how we all do that?
I'm like, how is the time up? Like, I swear I just got here.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Real Pod. If this hit home or helped you in some way, send it to a friend, a teammate, roomie. Share the love, share the realness. New episodes of Real Pod come out every single Wednesday. So make sure you are subscribed to this podcast so you never miss an episode.